Okay, it's running.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Mary Ellen Kergulis from Mass Peace Action, and welcome to this webinar from the Peace and Climate Working Group of Mass Peace Action, as well as co-sponsored by Biodiversity for a Living Planet.
Hello. Hello. Am I?
Yeah, go ahead, Rosalie.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Rosalie.
okay. Sorry. So, my name is Rosalie Anders. I'm the chair of the Mass Peace Action Education Fund, and with John McDougall, co-chair of our Peace and Climate Working Group. And it has been so great working with Biodiversity for a Livable Climate, to put this on. And I've learned a lot from them over the years as an environmental planner and now as a retiree. They're wonderful. So right now, I want to say we need to be protesting like crazy, all the terrible things that are happening. But at the same time, we also need to be putting forward a positive vision of the change that we know needs to happen and is happening in parts of the world. And that is equally important. So today, we're really going to learn about some significant efforts happening around the world outside the United States to help us to do that. So I'm really excited about it. And welcome, everybody.
If I can quickly add a couple of quick things. I'm John McDougall, co-chair with Rosalie of the Peace and Climate Group in Mass Peace Action. And another co-sponsor of this event is 350 Massachusetts, a climate advocacy organization. And I also put in the chat, we're inviting everybody who's on this call, could you please put in the chat your name, where you're physically located, and if you like, any organizational affiliation. I know some people have put that in already, but others, it would be great if you can add that as well. And now I think, Rosalie, we are ready to hand things over to Beck from.
We are.
And I just want to echo what Rosalie said. I've learned so much from working for Beck. It's been a delight.
Thank you so much, John and Rosalie. You both have been wonderful to work with. They have put in a lot of volunteer time over the last few months to pull this together. And it was John and Rosalie who first approached us and said, wow, with so much going on around funding for international programs and around changing priorities for climate change, do you know anyone who's doing good work? What can we reassure people with? And so we came up with a great panel of people working in both the Sahel region of Africa and in the Amazon, two very critical ecosystems. And you'll get to see how, despite changing priorities and changing international viewpoints,
I haven't gotten the
the
invitation.
work
I'll watch
goes
with you
on.
until I get it.
And Rosalie, you need to go on mute. Thank you. So that is a little housekeeping for you. Everyone starts on mute. Please stay on mute. If you want to have questions that come up, go ahead and put them in chat. John and Rosalie will be keeping an eye on them, and we will have 2 question and answer periods from the audience throughout this afternoon. So let's see. Where should we start? A tiny little bit about myself. I have been in nonprofit work for decades, but I started in law, where I thought I might be a lawyer for the earth. The summer after first year, I spent in Nairobi, Kenya, where the UN Environmental Program is located. I was studying international environmental law and doing a fair amount of safari and exploring as well. Even at that time, and this was in the early 1990s, desertification was an urgent problem in the Sahel region of Africa, which is one of the places we'll discuss today. Now, at Bio for Climate, we know that without healthy ecosystems, there cannot be a healthy climate. And so since 2013, we've been sharing the science about our living climate systems and sharing stories of success, of how people all over the world are bringing degraded ecosystems back to life. So today I'm happy to bring you some wonderful, inspiring speakers. So we'll start. Rob Delat will take us to the Amazon and start us off in a highly degraded area of northern Brazil. He's a Dutch entrepreneur, climate strategist, and project lead at Cooling the Climate, together with Peter Bunyard and many others. Their book is called Cooling the Climate, How to Revive the Biosphere and Cool the Earth Within 20 Years, which was published in November of last year. And then our next two speakers will be John Larry and Usman Palm. John Larry is the author of One Shot, Trees as Our Last Chance for Survival. He's also the founder of Mother Trees, a global initiative that has worked with thousands of farmers to plant millions of trees. And you will see how he's dedicated his life to bringing back this area. We are hoping that Dr. Usman Palm will also join us. He's a distinguished professor of literature and the former mayor of Guadalcanal. He is the director and founder of Redis, which helps traditional villages become eco-villages in Senegal. All right.
Usman has just come in.
Usman, wonderful to see you. Thank you. So the way the format will work is each of our speakers will give a short slide presentation, and then we will do some audience Q&A. Then we will come back and I will ask the panelists some predetermined panel questions to give them a chance to tell a couple of success stories and challenges and share a little bit more about that. They'll wrap up with the Q&A. All right, so let's start with you, Rob. We're going to share your screen and tell us about what's going on in the Amazon.
Thank you very much, Beck. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. So my name is Rob de Laat. I'm a climate strategist, and I'm focusing very much on the Amazon rainforest, and I'll explain in a little presentation why. I will start actually a little bit with the climate science that is we need to understand, which right now is not understood right now by the world, to how we can keep this planet livable, and how forests and vegetation in general is of crucial importance to keep temperatures down and to regulate the weather. So I'm going to share a little presentation, and we'll take it from there. Let me see. Here it is. Okay, I hope you can see the screen, and now I have to go full screen. Can you see this? Good. So the project that I lead is called Cooling the Climate, a global call to action and a large-scale plan to cool the climate. So it's really, really maybe even megalomaniac, but I want to explain why I think it's necessary and possible. So actually, Bioclimate has already promoted this story for a very long time. We are taught all the time that CO2 is heating up the planet, and it does. But there is another part of the story which is not told, which is at least as important, and that is the fact that the planet is actually organized as a superorganism that is regulating its own metabolisms. And you could say in general that apart from having to decarbonize, restoring the biosphere, which we have damaged with human activity over the centuries, restoring the biosphere equals restoring the water cycles, because water cools, and I'll come to that, and that leads to restoring the climate. Right now, we are in a dangerous situation as we are approaching the climate tipping points, which people probably have heard of. These are points in the climate system that if they flip, basically they can't be turned back and things will accelerate. And these climate tipping points, there's about a dozen of them, are all connected. Now, coming back to the Amazon rainforests, the last 2 years, 2023 and 2024, had such huge droughts that basically you could see that the forest is already getting into the tipping point. And why is that important? Well, I'm going to show you, if I can get it running this video. And here you see the light blues, which are the areas with most atmospheric moisture, and you see the brown ones, north and south, which is less. And you see that, of course, most moisture actually circulates in the tropical zone. It's very logical why. The temperatures are higher, most sunlight comes in. And I would like you to see that there's actually a big connection between the Congo rainforest in the heart of Africa, going over the over the Atlantic Ocean and into the Amazon area. And this is what we call the biotic pump. And this pump, this moisture, is in a large part actually organized by the forests themselves. And maybe it's also interesting right now, you can see right down, you see we're in July, and the moisture is now going up all the way up to Canada and the United States. That is the time when also all the foliage in North America has opened up, is doing photosynthesis, and basically is also pulling moisture into the north. Now, this, I have to see if I can get back to the slide presentation. And so this biotic pump principle, where forests basically make wind, clouds, and rain, is of huge importance and is right now not in the climate models. I'll explain it very briefly. Because I didn't get that much time, but anyway, the moment that sun hit the leaves of a tree, photosynthesis start, which we've all learned what that is. But there's one part that is always forgotten, and that is that for every molecule of sugar that is made during photosynthesis, a few hundred molecules of water are evaporated through the stomata of the leaves, and that vapor goes up, basically taking heat from the forest floor up into the atmosphere. A second element is pulled with it, which are called bioaerosols, small particles that the leaves also emit, and together they form the possibility for the water vapor that goes up to condensate into clouds. Now, clouds, of course, first of all, they're umbrellas against sunlight, so they cool. But also they rain out, so they rehydrate they rehydrate the forest below. And because of the moment that the gas goes back into liquid, its volume shrinks by a factor of thousands. It also creates wind because it's an under pressure that is created, which pulls up the air and pulls it sideways. So this movement is so strong in large forests that it actually pulls the moisture back from the Atlantic Ocean, in this case of the Amazon, into the land, and then starts circulating several times. Up to 7 times a drop of rain falls and more inland. So this is the principal cooling mechanism of vegetation. And while I'm focused on the Amazon rainforest, it is actually something that is happening all over the world. They create the flying rivers that basically draw in moisture inland, and the moisture that goes from the Congo into the Amazon can go all the way to South Africa. And during the early spring months and summer months, it also goes into the United States. I could say a lot more about it, but my time is limited, so I'll just go on. So basically, what we have to understand is we have all learned that we have global warming because we have more CO2 in the atmosphere, which is absolutely right. But we never told that actually forests, in the way they evaporate water and make clouds, actually cool the area down substantially. So it is the optimist message that if we are regenerating forests at large scale around the world, and especially in the tropics, where most of the heat comes in, we can actually stop the planet from heating up. So that's why I wrote a book together with Peter Banyard, and we think that at the right scale, which humanity is unlikely to do, but theoretically it's possible, we could stop and reverse temperatures rising within 20 years. At the same time, the problem with the Amazon is that because it rains out on itself, it rehydrates itself. If you take away enough canopy, then basically the system starts faltering and the forest dries out, which is a self-reinforcing feedback loop. And right now, that is already happening. That is causing these droughts, and these droughts are actually spiking global temperatures. We have calculated that if the whole forest would be taken away, the additional temperature rise to the world would be 2.5 degrees centigrade. I don't know what that's in Fahrenheit, but I can tell you it's enough basically for the planet to become unlivable. So what I would like to say is that we have to understand that the tropical rainforests, with especially the Amazon rainforest as the largest one, these are the cooling organs of our living planet. And once you see that, you understand that it's not nice to have a biodiverse big forest somewhere on the other side of the world. No, it's actually necessary for the climate to stay livable. Now, coming back to the project that I am involved with, let me first say that the Amazon region is the size of the contiguous United States. And there's thousands of organizations in 9 countries busy trying to save the forest, but still it's going the wrong way because it is so much easier to make money uh, um, killing a tree or killing a river. And so we really have to stop that, not just for that area, but for the whole livability of the planet. What I'm involved in is one of those thousands of projects, and it started actually very fast because I got a question in 2021 of a chief of the Guajajara tribe asking to help, and so I went around and I found Eden Projects, one of the largest reforestry in the world, and they started with a good team, and within months actually tree planting started, and we did 1 million trees and a bit more, but then the funding actually collapsed, and we have been doing marginal things, and right now we're trying to get financing through carbon credits, which is very complicated. So right now, while we had a flying start. I forgot to tell that this area it's part of 5 indigenous areas on the northeast side of the Amazon. And if we would bring back the trees there, this biotic pump would actually be reinforced, pull in more moisture. So it would have an effect over huge distances, rehydrating and cooling and protecting food production. So right now we're sort of in a waiting mode. Every now and then we get a small donation. We do maybe 10,000 trees, but we're looking at large scale, 100 million plus trees in the next few years. So that's basically what we're working for. The problem is there's so much red tape around these things and so much ask and so much information that it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars and a lot of time to formulate all these things. So that's why right now we are busy to organize a regenerative digital financial platform that makes it much easier to onboard a project, to do a first assessment on the ground with satellites, to do a digital mapping of what is needed to bring it, for instance, back to forest or agroforestry, and to calculate the fineness that is necessary, and then start with satellite pictures, looking at that territory all the time to see how it's evolving, and paying people to regenerate the forest. So if we want to cool the planet, we have to do an area the size of Argentina, and that's a very big country, to bring down temperatures by 1 degree centigrade. But there's also 500 million families, smallholder farmers, and indigenous peoples in the tropical zone that if we would pay them to do this work together, they would have a beautiful effect on the climate. So, because of the limited time that I got, I keep it here. But I just want to say there's a huge amount of people working for the Amazon and in the Amazon. The biggest thing that we need is finance and getting everybody working together, because a lot of what is happening is very isolated. Thank you very much.
You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Rob is a great person to go first because he really sets you in the science as to why we're talking about trees and forests and eco restoration. And everyone, all of our speakers today know that when we are talking about trees, we are not just talking about random tree planting, we're talking about bringing back ecosystems in forests. So we'll move on to see how this is working out at the village level. Dr. Usman Pam will share with us what's going on at Redis and how they're making an impact. Usman, take it away. You didn't have a chance to do a screen share. Let's see, do you have slides for us today?
Yes, I do have some slides to share. And right, here you are. And I'm really sorry I got a little bit late because I thought, it would start at 5 p.m. here in Dakar time. And right. So welcome to the Sahel region, which is this region below the Sahara Desert. It starts from Senegal, Mauritania on the west, all the way to the east in Eritrea. And this is, to me, is the epicenter of climate change here. And because now the temperatures are extremely high, around 50 degrees, sometime between May, June, July, because the strong, the winds from the heart of the desert also blow and dry everything. Lakes are drying up, and this is also worsened. The situation is worsened also by all the agricultural, the farming problems, which consist basically of clearing forests and introducing cash crops. And all these pictures, I took them myself in the north of Senegal, where we have more and more sandstorms. Last year we had one of the worst, floods, which really ended up by the displacement of thousands of people and also the loss of lot of cattle. So we have now lots of droughts, lots of floods, and farmers do not know when to grow, and then they completely at a loss. And also at the result of the damages of the ecosystems, many of the young people are leaving the villages to go to urban centers, Dakar, Nouakchott, or even take across the desert, go into Southern Europe or take boat. And many of them, also die on the way. So this is my village, which was created by the French. In the 1930s, people were brought by force from surrounding villages and neighboring, and then this is where conventional agriculture started. So it meant, of course, chemicals, curing the land, and so at the beginning, people got really excited because everything was free, and like chemicals, the pesticides, herbicides, and all this, and also the yields were very, very high. But towards the end of the 80s, with also the effects of the monocrops and all these poisons, so the yields got dropped, drastically. And then also that coincided with also the agricultural, the structural policies imposed by the IMF and the World Bank. And then, so all of a sudden, the farmers were left to themselves and now caught between higher bank loans and the smaller and smaller yields. So in the, where you can see here, maybe you can read Chinese, but I cannot. I can read 1974, We also had Chinese in my village who also came to show us that communism was much better than capitalism. And of course, they brought electricity, they brought free chemicals, and of course, with the diplomatic problems with China, they also had to left. So the small village in the north of Senegal, found itself caught up between, the competition between the north, the west and the east. We had, planes coming in. We had, really other people coming to find work also in this area. But because people felt, this could not work anymore, we called, the communities together. This is a picture I took in 2007. We called the communities and then we explained to them what an eco-village is. Basically, an eco-village is really taking care of the land, taking care of the ecosystems and living with the ecosystems, not in like a war, but really being part of the ecosystems and protecting also this. So in 2018, we called for a meeting between Senegalese and Mauritanians by the river, we were dreaming loud in the desert how to regenerate the whole area. And of course, some of the elders there worked in my own village, and they said, no, we don't want the model of Gedeshanti. We would like, to try something totally different, to bring back our traditional crops. And then the vision of bringing together 50 villages in Mauritania and 50 villages in Senegal started from this meeting. And we also signed MOUs with the municipality of Gamaji. And on that very place where we spent the day, in the dust, in the heat, we also built a center where we can, have our meetings and really work together. Because also Senegal in Mauritania, so the river is considered today like a border, but it was not a border. It's a legacy of the colonial systems. And many of the Mauritanians now do not dare to cross the river. And likewise, also Senegalese are afraid because in '89, Senegal and Mauritania almost went to war, following, resulting from the fight between a herder and a farmer. And for us, in Redes, we understand that this fight, which escalated very quickly in deportations of thousands of people across the border, in shops being looted in Dakar, and also killings, for us, we understood that, all this resulted from the massive destruction of the ecosystem, which brought more and more farmers and herders together on the same places. So one of the the action we started doing is really taking people back to the land and teaching them how to regenerate all this dead land. And we started also organizing the communities to produce their own tree nurseries, and having big workshops like this, and also explaining to people what an eco-village is, etc. So here using theater, because not many people in the area can read and write. Theater is really one of the important tools we use to change people's mindsets, etc. And here we were celebrating, the successes, the community successes. Yes, theater again to explain what nutrition eco-villages are. And this is the tree nursery we put in place right after this meeting. And so far we have produced 500,000 trees with just a little, amount of money, 10,000 USD. And then we use this to organize some green caravans in the area, to build, to implement, community orchards. And this is also where the headquarters of Redes is right now. And this is the land at the beginning. It's totally transformed right now. This was just about 2 years ago, and it's like this. And from this barren land, we have come to this. And fortunately, birds are coming back, bees are coming back, and the birds are nesting in our, and we, we are now harvesting the first fruit of our labor. And then we organize also food processing, workshops for women, both in Senegal and Mauritania, and also, digging wells for people to have access to water, to start small gardenings, to reduce water-borne disease. So, and then each well costs about 1,100 USD, which are given just by people from, friends of Redes around the world. And we also build classrooms. So far, 13 classrooms have been built by Redes, also thanks to our supporters in France and other areas. We do organize, a lot of cultural events for the people also to be really deeply rooted in their own culture and not, copy everything they hear in the schools, in the media, and also on internet. We have, in February this year, we organized the second edition of our Eco-Village Festival, which brought, together municipalities, which brought together community leaders, women cooperatives, youth, etc. And this is Lobbudu, where also the second part in Mauritania, where the second part of the festival took place. And they have regenerated 18 hectares. And what is really fantastic, this is a sanctuary for animals. Just for the birds, 120 bird species were recorded last year in this forest. And it produces all year round. Now they have food. And in just about 25 years ago, it was just like any other village in the Sahel region. And we would like very much to use this as a school, as an example, a university, also to teach people that it's possible to do so. And this is on the spot I showed you. We also would like to build a live and learn center for the youth, for international volunteers to come and support and stay and work with the populations. And these empty chairs is a symbolic, very strong invitation to join us in our fight to regreen, the Sahel region in the north of Senegal, south of Mauritania. Thank you so much. I took the liberty to show more slides because sometimes words, the pictures tell more than just the words. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Usman. Because we have such a great panel of speakers, nobody has enough time to tell all the stories they want to tell, for sure. But two of the themes that I think were very important was the effect on peace between the neighboring countries of the eco-restoration, and also this whole theme that modernization does not equal westernization. And I think most of the people in eco-restoration understand that, but it's a message we need to get out to the broader community. Now, John Leary has also worked in Senegal and lived in Senegal, and he is taking a larger view of eco-restoration, has created a very specific program that he is going to share with us. Thank you, John.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? You can see my screen? It's my great, oh, wonderful, wonderful. It's my great pleasure to be able to talk with you about mother trees and what we're doing. And as well as I think it's very appropriate, even though we have Brazil and West Africa, Senegal represented today. Right now, many people in the United States are having low air quality because a lot of the dust storms that are coming from West Africa and swooshing across the Atlantic are now filling the lungs of people in the Caribbean and Texas and the East Coast and Florida and other places too. So we're all connected in this climatic system. I think cooling the planet, the kicking us off with some of the science was wonderful. And seeing that, my last point here, I think in my career, what I've seen is that it's our farming and our food system that is quickly degrading and ruining the environment. Whether it's what Professor Pami was explaining in Senegal is the food system degrading the landscape, the chemicals, the toxin, the fertilizers, the pesticides, and the Amazon right now, it's the farming and the cattle and the soy, the GMO corn, and things like that. And the way that we feed ourselves and the greed in those systems are destroying ecosystems everywhere. We at Mother Trees are planting millions of trees each year. We're going to do over 8 or 9 million more this year to add to our 6.3 that we've done in the last couple of years. And our, we're an international organization. We're harnessing the power of trees to restore degraded landscapes. And when we look at a landscape is usually forests and farms. And the impact of farms and farming systems on landscapes is just tremendous. And we're trying to always pull together the end of this, the best practices in regenerative agroforestry and forest ecosystem restoration. So I know that we're in the right crowd today as we try to define best practices and share them. I would offer, through our work, I've been able to support Redis. Professor Palme just spoke, and we've helped give $10,000 grants multiple times, supporting them, and we're all very much in this kind of battle together. Our mission to harness the power of trees to make agriculture regenerative and to combat the urgent challenges of deforestation and climate change, we all share that. We're all working toward that. Our vision, it entails optimal health for people and biodiversity. We look at nutrition, we look at the health of the planet, the health of the families, and I've had the great pleasure of planting over 250 million trees in tree planting projects with organizations all around the world, and I've learned a tremendous amount. And a world where natural farming and conservation and forest conservation, it is possible. We have the tools and the techniques. I think we just need to find ways to advocate for our strategies and to combat, the heavy kind of greed and the big ag machine that continues to erode our planet. But we know a better way, and we need to communicate this vision. My partner in crime, I have many partners in crime. One of them is Pam Aguyo, who's on here, and she runs our communications and marketing, and she's the reason our slides are so fantastic here.
John,
yes.
The music is a little too loud for people to hear over. Maybe it'd be easier to turn it way down, turn it off.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Sure. I see the volume button here.
There we go.
Good. Got it. So our marketing team is run by Pam Oguya, who's on here. And then I was saying the other partner in crime who's essential mother trees is Omar. And so Omar didn't get a chance to join us here today, but Omar is our mother trees country director in Senegal. And he has helped plant tens of millions of trees in Senegal alone since we first got started in 2001. I was a Peace Corps volunteer serving in the United States Peace Corps. I had the great pleasure of living in Omar's house. I got to know he and his mom and his dad and his whole family very, very well, and we've been partners and brothers ever since. We share a passion for natural farming and for tree planting, and the insights that I'm able to have really working hand in hand with Omar, who lives in Senegal. He lives in the villages. He knows the people. He knows the needs. He's Professor Palme mentioned the forced migration out of Senegal from the farming system, degrading the landscape, people thinking that they need to migrate elsewhere. Well, we found a better way. We were 22 years old, and we said there's got to be a better way than dying on a boat going, to Europe or Spain. And the peanut farming. So whereas it might be GMO soy and corn that's eroding a lot of the Amazon, it's the peanuts in particular that have been particularly devastating in Senegal since they were first brought in colonial times. The forced labor, a peanut grows under the soil. So in order to harvest it, you have to rip up the ground. And when you do that on a landscape, you rip up the whole landscape, and the soil dies and the rivers stop flowing, the topsoil blows away. Omar and the communities and the people that I've worked with have witnessed this devastating impact that the Professor Palme called it conventional agriculture, this very industrial type agriculture that clear the land, monocrop a seed, do your fertilizer, maybe a pesticide or an herbicide, and it just destroys farmers and it destroys the land, and it's really impacting farmers in many detrimental ways too, nutritionally, economically, and elsewhere. Mother trees in sub-Saharan Africa, Haiti, and across the developing world, we've seen that crop intensification model is inadequate. And so we've found a different way, having a triple bottom line of economic impacts, social impacts, and environmental impacts. We train farmers. We've put together a program. You can see Omar on the left, and we've got Malik, who is one of our farmers there with his citrus seedling. Or each family is trained. They rehabilitate their farm. The farmers band together and learn how to form agroforestry cooperatives. And then that cooperative has committees and other groups that support forest restoration in the community. And so whereas our intervention might be 3-4 years of training and mobilizing resources, the sustainability is that people are trained, cooperatives are formed, and people start making money from the fact that now they have lots of trees that are supporting a green economy in the community. Advance here. Our flagship Life Tree program is the approach that we take in Senegal, in Haiti, and we adapt it in different places where we work. It's about taking degraded land and turning them into food-producing ecosystems using regenerative agroforestry. And when a farmer turns his or her farm into a degraded plot of land, and you saw the pictures that Retta showed earlier of the Senegalese landscape that's been heavily deforested. When you protect it with trees on the outside of the field to keep the goats and the sheep out, and when you plant rows of fruit trees and other things inside the field, and when you plant tall trees to grow up above and lots of short things to grow below the trees, the family itself benefits from having more things to sell, more things to eat. They make more money. They have better nutrition because they're not just getting all of their nutrition from the corn or the soy, but they have different fruits and vegetables and herbs and other things growing throughout the year. And this system is obviously better for every single living thing in the environment. Every bird, bee, bat, butterfly, the big mammals, the small insects, you name it. They all have niches in an agroforestry system, and biodiversity and humans can all thrive. The background here is impressive because you've got a very degraded landscape, but the Life Tree system, it helps to strengthen at a household level and the community level. This is just one family getting started. And in Senegal, we right now have a plan for 7,000 families. We've got 2,000 lined up for this coming year and 7,000 in a larger program to plant 30 million trees in the zone that you just saw kind of from the drone up above. The Life Tree system eliminates harmful practices like burning, and it reduces the plowing, it gets rid of the agrochemicals, and it promotes a lot of nutrient recycling. And the farmer, at the end of the day, has a protected system that's producing all kinds of things to eat, sell, and trade every single month of the year. And then generationally, that's the system that the farmer is passing to his or her son or daughter. Rather than inheriting an empty plot of land that makes you want to walk to the other side of the planet, the families inherit a mixed fruit tree orchard protected by a living fence that provides food and income throughout the year. And if we all do this, if all the farmers in Senegal and all the farmers in Haiti and Kenya and Tanzania and all the other places where we want to work would do this, we can end global hunger for smallholder farmers who are struggling to make ends meet. We can regreen landscapes, which are very much, covered with thousands and really tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of smallholder farmers, just like the people that you see here. This is some of my team with one of our super farmers, who's one of the person who not only has seen success in restoring his own land, but is really just passionate for sharing seeds and getting this life-changing ideas into other people's hands. There's a QR code on the screen. If you put your phone up to it, it'll take you right to our Instagram page. But we didn't have a whole lot of pictures here to share today, and I invite you to join us on Instagram, and you'll see all kinds of wonderful stories there. We also invite people to donate to all three organizations. Please make a donation to all four, organizations that are speaking here today. We appreciate your support, and supporting these grassroots organizations is the most bang for your buck in trying to have an impact on people and the environment. In Senegal, we have an agroforestry union that's coming together of all the agroforesters who turn their degraded plots of land into agroforestry systems. In Haiti, this is Planting Day in Haiti, we've got a honey cooperative where we're working with mostly a women's cooperative, over 1,100 women in a honey cooperative, and they're all planting the agroforestry system as well and benefiting from the nutrition. And we're happy to be introduced to new programs and projects. We're very good at training in agroforestry. We've helped many organizations learn how to do agroforestry. Redis is one of our partners that I've been able to work with in the past, and they're a learning organization as well. And the seed bank, Biodiversity for a Livable Climate, sponsored a seed bank in Senegal as well. And so farmers are able to borrow seed, and then they go and restore their land. And then when they've got all these seeds, they don't know what to do with them. They return the seeds back to the seed bank, and then we loan them out to more people. And so through this seed lending program, we hope that we can continue to expand reforestation and agroforestry. We have a lot to share in terms of food security. And I think maybe my last sentence here, then we can get on to some of the discussion. And hopefully what you've seen today, it's not just what you do and what you do. Is it community-based eco-villages, as Redis does? Is it, restoring forest restoration in the Amazon? Is it agroforestry, landscape restoration? There's the what and the how. And how you go about it is very, very important. And going through a process of co-creation where you're bringing good ideas that communities might not have an opportunity to think of or to learn from elsewhere, and then hearing from the needs and opportunities of local communities. We help people have more options, more things to sell, and the knowledge to make change with those options, or to act based on those options as well. And so I think that at the end of the day, everything that you've heard today is really empowering people to empower others, to help the environment. Our support here just makes the tools available, and all the rest of the magic can kind of happen. So we welcome your questions here today. As we think about peace and justice, I think I see the imbalance, especially nowadays, with the reduction of the U.S. overseas support and this vacuum of what kind of guidance and programs and projects are going to help inform landscapes moving forward. I'm very nervous about the role of big agriculture, the seed companies, the fertilizer companies, the cheap meat companies, and all of the big, food system companies that have a history of degrading the planet. And so we are the small organizations, we're the eyes and the ears, and we have some good ideas, but we've got some challenging times ahead. And we welcome your questions and look forward to a good discussion.
Thank you, John. So we're going to change our overall agenda just slightly. I ask John and Rosalie to go with the flow with us. John, if you can do a stop screen share. And the next presentation would be from Bio for Climate, because Rosalie and John asked that we leave you with something that you can do here in the United States. And so I just have a few slides to share how you can take eco-restoration actions here at home. Let's get... Just a little reminder what biodiversity for a livable climate does. And the eco-restoration that helps restore the planet and cool it has to do with planting, hydrating, protecting what we have, and cooling hard surfaces. So you've heard how eco-restoration can hold back the Sahara Desert and keep the lungs of the planet and the Amazon from drying out. Big projects scaling up to stabilize the climate. I'd like to talk to you about tiny projects, about tiny forests, which are tiny ecosystems teeming with life that can be planted anywhere, but are especially helpful in urban areas. Using a method developed by Dr. Akiya Miyawaki, Bio for Climate has been planting mini forests in parks, schools, apartment buildings, and even parking lots since 2021. We planted the first Miyawaki forest in the New England area. The beauty of these forests is not how large they are, but how small they can be. With 1,000 square feet, or the size of 6 parking lots, Dr. Miyawaki discovered how to bring the right native species together with the best soil prep and the best spacing to create these tiny forest ecosystems in about 10 years. It's almost magic to see how they grow. This is our Somerville High School project that was planted in 2021. The overview you can see is this tiny spot between all the buildings. And you can see how it's looked when we first planted it. And then this was taken last year, in 2024, in 1 year, you can see the huge amount of growth. Our very first forest was planted in Danahy Park, which is in Cambridge, Mass, in 2021, starting in the middle of a lawn area, planting day, and this is just a couple of years later. Very dense and beautiful. From the outside, some people think they look like a messy patch of weeds, but up close you realize that they're designed to maximize biodiversity, all the way from preparing the soil sponge full of fungi and insects through each forest layer. This is the #1 lesson of our mini forest program, to learn that a forest is not just a bunch of trees. A tree plantation is not a forest. Sure, these tiny islands of trees, they have a lot of benefits. They sequester carbon, absorb floodwaters, transpire and cool, as well as create shade. Some people believe that with enough of them, we could cool a city or cool a whole region. And that is possible. But these forests aren't really for the planet. They're for the people who plant them, the people who tend them for the first 3 years, the people who take the time to get to know them, to look closely at how life takes over and whole worlds take hold in this tiny patch of wildness. These are healing forests, not to heal just the land, but to heal the people who work with them. So lesson #2 of the mini forest program is agency. People in the United States need to understand that we also have agency. We can move forward with eco-restoration in whatever area or plot we have, whether it's a tiny forest or your yard or working with someone in your neighborhood or municipality. No matter what the government is doing or what your neighbors think, you can plant something and we can bring a part of this world back to life. That is not an overview of how a Miyawaki forest works. That is just an introduction telling you that we have them. I invite you to register for the Miyawaki Summit we'll be holding on July 24th and 25th, where you can hear from so many different speakers. We counted in putting this together at least 17 mini forests right here in Massachusetts, and you'll be hearing from a lot of those speakers. And that is all I'm going to say before we get to some question and answers from our panelists. All right. Rosalie and John are going to take a look in the comments and see if you've put any questions in there so far. And we'll take just a few of them so we can get back on schedule, because we still have a chance for our panelists to have a few more remarks before we wrap up. So let's take about 10 minutes for this.
Rosalie, you're still muted.
Sorry. Well, here's a question from Amy Perlmutter, who asks, will cooling through trees and water reduce carbon or just cool the planet? Will it reduce ocean acidification?
Rob, I think that one's for you.
The answer is slightly complicated, but let me say that it does so for a little bit. In order to do a reverse ocean acidification, we actually have to revive ocean biology. And that is absolutely possible, and it goes fast. It goes even much faster than already quite fast regeneration on land. But if we would, right now you see that around, I don't know, it depends on the area, but that maybe in some areas, certainly more than half of the biology of an ocean has been completely killed. And if you revive that, then especially the plankton cycle that happens creates a lot of small skeletons that are made of calcium carbonate and that sink back to the ocean, and that basically takes CO2 out of the water. So the increase of the disrupted phytoplankton and zooplankton cycle will actually do something against acidification of the ocean. And funny enough, it will also have a lot of co-benefits. For instance, the amount of fish will go up very fast, and there's much more, but I'll leave it at that. But in order to basically cool the planet and restore the climate, we have to do both things on land and in the ocean, and both are very much possible. Thank you.
For that, Rob, and maybe we'll move on to a couple of other questions. One is somebody put in the chat that there's maybe what we call a sales job by the lumber companies who've tried to convince people in the United States, at least, and other maybe countries of the global north, that lumber used for building is a renewable resource when it's from monoculture trees, which are planted on a massive scale in the United States. And a question about that is, how can we reverse that false narrative? And then there's a related question, which is, how do we, in this, if you will, regenerative agroforestry movement, how do we reverse the profile of big agriculture and bigger tree farms, and make sure that regenerative approaches, that they are seen and heard on a much bigger scale? So I don't know if
allow me to jump in, John.
Yes, please, John. Go ahead.
I would, because I feel like part of responding to the topics you just, also the previous question on ocean acidification. So it's interesting, and I wanted to share this, dying to share this today, so it's perfect timing. The big ag, the conventional agriculture we use in the US here throughout the Great Plains, the entire Missouri River watershed, the whole Mississippi River watershed. If any of you visit any city in any of that geography, you can't drink the water because the farming system has polluted it. You're going to buy bottled water. When you visit Iowa, you're not going to like go to the well and drink the water. That's toxic. No, the water quality is it. And not only is it in all of those states and it's running off into the rivers, but the rivers, the Mississippi dumps into the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, as they try to call it now. And it's dying. It's a massive dead zone larger than the state of Massachusetts that forms in the middle of the Gulf every single year. And that's from all the nitrogen, the fertilizer, from all the watersheds I just talked about, all those farmers using all of the fertilizer, it all runs off into the water. And there's a lot of cheap meat. I saw the questions about big ag. It's not just the big ag, it's like the big cheap meat lobby in Mississippi and other places. And when you get all this, the hurricanes, the storms, all of this poop, and which has a lot of nitrogen in it, and all of the runoff from the farms forms these dead zones in the ocean. So how can trees help? there are many trees that we have in agroforestry, and this is a big part of the life tree system that we do in Haiti and Africa and elsewhere, that fix nitrogen into the soil. They are nitrogen fixing trees. And I would love to teach class. I teach classes on this in training. And so nitrogen fixing trees by a farmer planting rows of nitrogen fixing trees. You're taking nitrogen out of the air, you're fixing it into the soil, you're building the soil, you're doing it the right way. I went to Iowa. I went to the World Food Prize. I went to the chief technical officers of Syngenta and Corteva, which are the new Monsantos in the US. And I talked to these guys. There's a couple guys and a woman, and I said, listen, Eureka! In Africa and Haiti and elsewhere, we found it. It's nitrogen fixing trees, so we don't have to pollute the planet to grow food. We just have to grow them in agroforestry systems with trees and do composting and a few other things. And he turned to me and said, John, I can't sell trees. And he walked away. So I flew to Iowa to talk to these people to show that around the world, people have come up with very good, sustainable, regenerative ways. But because they can't make money off of all the farmers, they just see farms as clients. And when those big ag people, and this is the funny thing, when Professor Pame and I at Redis and Mother Trees, when we talk about the market, we're talking about where are the farmers going to sell their fruits and vegetables and herbs and honey and cashews and all this stuff. But when big ag talks about the market, they're talking about the farmer. They don't care what he or she grows. They don't care how much they produce or where they sell it. They just want that farmer to keep coming back and buying their seeds and fertilizers and pesticides. That money-making machine, which is now eroding the Amazon, is still continuing to degrade Africa as well, is so entrenched in the United States that I see the questions. The greed that underlines, herbicides, glyphosate, which we're trying to get rid of. When you spray glyphosate as an herbicide, then you don't have to hire people to pick weeds. So your labor costs go down. So in that agribusiness, calculations, cheap, easy, greedy, chemical infused, that's the way. That's the United States agriculture right now. And how do we break out of that? We all have to stop buying all of the crops and the food and the oils and the other things and the junk and the sugars and all that are made from those crops that are grown in ways that are destroying us. And we need to turn 100% of all of our buying power and purchase only from farmers who are growing things in regenerative ways. And I think that's the only way, but it's going to take a lot of webinars. So, schedule us up.
We're working
I see
on it.
hands. I appreciate your time. I wanted to share that. Thank you so much.
I see that Rob also had some comments on that.
Good.
Rob?
Maybe I can just, it's wonderful what John says. And I just wanted to mention a project that I know, which is called a company called Forterra. It's in the United States. And Ed Ewing has been working for 20 years to find a combination of soil bacteria, fungi, and spore elements to enrich the biology of the soil. Basically, what he says, actually, I'm trying to restore the soils as they once was before humans started messing with them. And I've been to those fields. The growth, the growth of biomass is, I'm not joking, at least 4 times as much as the field next to it where the modern agriculture is doing its work. So as soon as we give a chance to the nature, which is far more intelligent than humans, to basically get all these species working together to revive soils, ecosystems, etc., the result is really miraculous, and we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. We have about 20 minutes left.
I'd like, Becky, if you don't mind, I'd like to say something.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch.
Osman has something to add.
Yes,
Well,
please.
thank you.
Please go
Yes, I'd
ahead.
love to
Yes,
hear what you have to
thank
say for
you.
that.
Yeah, my village is by River Senegal. And of course, in the area, it's so hot. It's maybe about above 100 plus degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not quite sure whether the conversation is good. But I mean, as young people, we used to spend, much of our time in the rivers, swimming, drinking, playing, and seeing monkeys on the other side of the river, boars coming to drink. And because two dams were built on River Senegal, and our countries were into debts, so they had to pay this back. And then they slashed the last forest reserves in this area to introduce cash, cash crops. So this big river has now turned into a lake. The water does not move. There's no less oxygen, and the parasites have developed, and other tree species have also developed. So for us, I mean, though I mean our grandparents and parents, lived by the river to have water to drink and have fun. They are by the river, and they're thirsty. And if you swim in the river, you get parasites in your body. And many people also, because, as John explained, all these chemicals that are drained into the river from the sugarcane companies, from the rice growing, farms, we have lots of metals, lots of, the chemicals of the water has changed. And people in Dakar who drink, whose water comes from the north of Senegal, have lots of kidney problems, but they don't see the connection. So we were sold a dream of abundance. We were sold a dream of, a wealthier, happier life. But I mean, it turns out to be a nightmare. And then today, fortunately, I mean, the communities that link along River Senegal have really seen the disasters that this conventional agriculture has produced, and they don't want to go into that anymore because they are now slaves of the banks, slaves of the chemical, farm, industries, slaves of the hybrid seeds, industries, and people clearly see now the picture. They don't want to go into that, and I think it just takes a little bit of kickstart, for people to get into a real revolution that will completely change the ecosystem and the people's, welfare. And then I also take the opportunity to say hello to my friend Rob, who's also supported us, our project here in the North very much. And to my brother John, I am really delighted to hear your presentation and also see the pictures. And thank you for the work you're doing in Africa. Really
It's a
appreciate
pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
I love bringing this group together. One of the terms that I heard mentioned at least once or twice by our speakers is that they are building green economies in these areas. And I'd like to just take a moment to contrast what our speakers are talking about for a green economy and what you might hear in the media as to what they're offering as a green economy for Africa or South America. And what philanthropists who are focused on renewable energy are offering is the opportunity to have a mine in your community where you can have jobs and where you can then buy solar panels with the money that you get from those jobs. When they talk about an equitable transition, they're talking about making sure everyone gets equal access to solar panels, right? So the kind of green economy we're talking about here, I'm just going to make a value judgment, is much better and more ethical and more sustainable. And I don't think I need to hammer that point in, but I think when you listen to these terms, you need to really think about what kind of transition you want to support. You all have come up with some great questions. Some of these are ones that we have been thinking to put to the panel. We're just going to take a couple minutes. We're just going to flex a little bit here to give the panel, I'm just going to go through the questions that we thought you might want to answer, or would give you an opportunity to mention anything that you haven't gotten to talk about yet. So some of those were telling us about the challenges to building your programs and how you've overcome them, or how you would like to overcome them, what you need to do. The second one is how your program is avoiding those economic traps when big philanthropists come in and say, well, this is great. As long as you use our GMO seeds, we're happy to help you out. Like, what does it take to not fall into that? And I just saw an article about a program called AFRA, which is, supposedly bringing this new technology and seed technology and GMO technology to parts of Africa. So if you have any feedback on that. And then kind of a related question, what will it take for your program to reach its full potential? And what does that look like? So pick one or none, or just have about 10 more minutes, give each speaker a chance to answer these questions, or bring up something that's just that they haven't had a chance to talk about yet. I think I will say the last person who hasn't spoken, well, we'll let Rob start off. We'll start with our original order. Rob.
Okay, well, when you talk about a green economy, I guess it is always, let me first say, it's always about the economy, about people are able to making a living. And so you can only build an ecosystem into it if the ecosystem is in line with the economy, that they have enough money to make and but also to feed themselves quite often, because a lot of these products are made for global markets, while regional markets are quite often undersold. So um, what I found most important is that if you want to restore the ecology, you have to restore community working together with the right methods, and get transition finance, because it's very difficult to get. But if you do have the right plan with the right commitment of people, then after a few years, they can take completely care of the situation. But quite often they have so little money, the transition is not being financed. And big NGOs and philanthropy, they ask 800 questions before they decide to do something. And basically, they should actually open their purses much faster and in small portions say, okay, I've heard your story. Here is portion one. And now go and report back how it's going. And if that's going well, here's portion two, instead of, trying to exercise the whole bloody thing until the end, because it always changes during the process. So I think that is one of the most important things that I think that philanthropy right now is not matching, and could be much more effective if it was a little bit more agile, or a lot more agile, in fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. I had a question kind of related to that, but maybe it'll get answered along the way. All right, Usman, what would you like to follow up with?
Thanks. Thank you very much, Beck. For us, in the north, with the REDS, we've never had a chance to have a good funding. Really, it's really, we have individuals from here and there who give us a little bit of this and this, and we grow our trees. We take care of our tree nursery, etc., etc. Because also we know also these big fundings always come with a clear agenda that also can sidetrack us to do other things that are not really in line with our own interests and not in line with the interests also of the land. But I mean, a minimum of resources is really needed to get people together, to work together, find connect people, and this is very often missing. And sometimes, we have 6 gardeners in our demonstration center who are taking care of a forest that is really starting to thrive. and each one of them gets 100 USD as a as a as a monthly stipend. And very often, because we are between the two, sometimes with lots of constraints, I take, family savings, my own money, and then I pay so that it can keep carrying on, especially at this moment when it's very, very hot. The temperatures are extremely harsh. So a day or 2 days without watering the plants, they will all die. All the efforts, will just disappear. I think, sometimes we just need a minimum of support of financial resources to be able to go far beyond what's happening now. Because we're using the force of the communities, we're using the presence of the youth, we're using, all these are resources. But it's important, to have a little bit of green fuel to take us a little further. Thank you.
Thank you, Usman.
Mm.
John.
Wonderful. I'm looking at the chat here and I see a bunch of questions. I hope to have, further conversations with everyone here. Find us online, find us on LinkedIn, find us on social media. Let's connect. I see some people even drop their links here on LinkedIn and whatnot in the chat here. There's plenty more to get into. I think one nugget that I was hoping to share today, as we were prepping, we had a preparation session ahead of here. And, at the backdrop of all that we're trying to achieve around the world, with hunger getting worse, with land degradation and climate change accelerating, right now, the United States has essentially pulled out all of its overseas support for things that that historically have helped in the world, and all the stuff that we've been talking about today. And I know we see Bill Gates, name, and he's dancing around the White House sometimes. And sometimes he has a good quote that we like, and sometimes he has a bad quote that we don't like. I have visited his work, his projects in Africa. I have served as a consultant for organizations like the 1 Acre Fund that he has supported through his foundation. And all of the bad things that you're not supposed to do that we talked about today, the hybrid seeds, the love of all technology assisted GMO crap, but mostly the hybrid seeds, the fertilizers, anything that's going to bring chemicals and technology into agriculture, he's doing it, I sent him my book. I've been sending him letters and books for years. He's never, his people have replied, but he's never. And I think from his vision, he wants to sell hardware. He wants to sell software. And maybe sometimes in the health world, if you have one vaccine and you can sell it to 1 million people, then maybe you can wipe out polio. But in agriculture, when you try to get one seed and sell it to 1 million farmers, you monocrop the hell out of a continent and everybody's poor and hungry. So his overall strategies are terrible. I visited him on the ground in Tanzania. I've advised against what he's doing, and it's so in the world right now, I'm saying, where's the leadership going to come from? USAID is now defunct. I'm lucky enough and that over the years I was able to work on many USAID projects. And not only on the direct projects in many different countries helping people and restoring landscapes, but I got to work on a lot of learning initiatives too, saying across these things, what's working. And so, luckily that R&D has been done. And so nowadays, when we talk about the agroforestry, the agroecology, the permagardening, we've integrated savings clubs into our program. So the same communities that are planting trees are saving money together. They're getting loans out to members. They're forming cooperatives. They're getting sales. They're climbing out of hunger and poverty. All of these learnings were learned on USAID supported projects over the past 50 years. So it's not all lost. There's still wonderful ideas out there, but within the vacuum, if we have people like Gates and just that kind of general mentality that says, we're going to dominate the world with our good business practices, we're going to be screwed. I have one last paragraph that I'll share, then I'll let you kind of run with it here. in my first book, One Shot, and I'm working on another one here. So stay tuned. We'll have another book in the next year. It's going to take a little while. The stories, it writes itself, ladies and gentlemen. I just listened to Rob and Usman for a couple minutes, and the book writes itself. It really does. I wrote, as we have seen in Africa time and time again over the past 50 years, imported agriculture inputs do not lift farmers up. They just shackle them to a dependency on expensive seeds, fertilizers, insecticides, and herbicides that ultimately destroy their soils and the environment. These imported products produce a new kind of indentureship, making rural farmers once again serfs to chemical and agribusiness companies of the same industrialized nations they fought to free themselves from only decades ago. And when I look at Gates, he's happy to give out loan. You can have my hybrid seed and fertilizer on a loan, and then you can pay me back later. Like the practices that these big ag and the conventional agriculture strategies are doing are advancing us into a place where we don't want to go. We all need to work together. I think this community, and looking in the chat, people know how to break it. We know how to break the power that they have by stop supporting all of the junk that they're growing. Direct our support toward farmers who are growing things regeneratively, healthy food grown in healthy ways, and I'm sure there's lots of other, and plant Miyawaki forests. So, it's my great pleasure to to be able to share some of the things here. I welcome any more questions. I know we're going to run out of time soon, though. So thank you so much, Beck, and everybody else.
John, thank you so much. I think the audience should know that just putting this webinar together has already created some positive change. John had a little roadblock in the bureaucracy for his program, and when we were all together, Usman said, "Oh, I know that guy. Let's see if I can help out." And so communication is one of the big things. I see some people, someone else asked what they could do in their very local government, low-level government. I would like to point you to the Bio for Climate course series. We have courses all throughout the year that teach about the different types of eco-restoration, and there's always components for how you bring that into your community and your neighborhood. And so it's a great place to share ideas and get coaching. We bring in different experts, and so you really have a chance to engage, because there's not a short answer, right? I mean, the person who asked that, like, what, there's not a short answer to that. There is a 4 to 12 week course that can really help you understand what needs to be done. Number one, understand how these ecosystems really work. This is a big deal right now with how we fight forest fires. We just finished a course about what the Forest Service is telling you and how forest ecosystems really work. Our next one is on water and climate. Rob, are you going to be a speaker at that? I know Anastasia is going to come and talk about the biotic pump, and you'll learn how does a municipality redo its water system, right, to bring back water into the soil level. So there's lots of opportunities, and it really just takes engagement. And, I really admire everybody who's here today. You know that it takes engagement, right? You're the people who are showing up. Let other people know they've got to show up and that there's hope. There is work to be done. And my son asked me, what should I do, Mom? He's in his late 20s. And he said, should I sign more petitions online? And I'm like, I hate to tell you, honey, it's going to take more than that. You really got to find out how things work in your community and get involved. And so that's what we're all doing here. I really want to thank all of our speakers. I want to thank John and Rosalie for coming to Bio for Climate to begin with and suggesting this webinar, and for all the time they put into planning it. And of course, MAPA for handling all the logistics and creating this great place for conversations like this. And we look forward to partnering with you and continuing that in the future. It can't be said enough. Go and check out everybody's website, see what you can do to be involved.
There's so much more to share, really.
Yeah.
But thank you. It's been a massive pleasure being in this circle. Thank you so much, Beck. Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
Everyone who also helped
Thank you.
put this together.
Thank you.